I'm going to be going over how I would do system design over again, like how I would generally approach the problems for system design, and then also like go over like some really basic concepts like cap theorem, which isn't super necessary. Might as well go over like some kind of idea for system design. But the big thing here is just like how to approach, how to solve the problems. And so we're going to go over two things here. And by the end of this video, you're going to stand and you're going to say, okay, I finally get it. I know how to do system design stuff. Like I on a general level, maybe not an expert, but so like there's concepts that I'll see and it's like, oh, well, here's denormalization. And then like you do this problem, like design TikTok or something, or like actually the true one is like design Bitly, a URL shortening service. That's like always the beginner one. And then it's like denormalization. There's like stuff like clock drift, all these complicated stuff and all that. There's change data captures and it's all confusing. I don't think it doesn't really matter. I think when it comes to designing a system and essentially how I do it, or at least how I try to approach these is like I have these like kind of like concepts in my brain, like whatever, but I just kind of like store them away and kind of use them, maybe like, you know, keep in my pocket or whatever, if in case I get asked about them. But the big thing I'm thinking about, like if someone tells me like, let's say it is design Bitly, like a URL shortener, or let's say it is like design Facebook or design YouTube or something, what I'm thinking is, okay, what are the user interactions? And so like we have like some kind of word, some kind of phrase, right? Design Facebook. Okay, well, what are we designing about Facebook? Are we, okay, so, or Instagram, like, okay, so we want people, so users can upload photos. That's like a user interaction, right? So user can upload photos. And like user interactions is just like, it's called functional requirements. I feel like, at least this is, again, I'll see it written and I'll call it this like functional requirements, but like really it feels like, at least when I'm doing it, I'm just thinking of what can users do? What can the users do? So the users can upload photos. And you'll probably see me type it out a lot, but like, okay, so they can upload photos. Assuming that, let's say we're designing Instagram, you know, can they leave comments? Can they do that? Can they do that, right? So users can view photos. And that's a really big thing. At least, so step one is that I'm just looking at the user interaction. Step two is that like I'm looking at the non-functional requirements, which are kind of like just restrictions. Maybe, I don't really know. Like it's kind of like a weird term where it feels like it's restrictions and I don't know, like scalability or something. And then like availability / consistency, stuff like that. It's weird, I guess, a little bit amorphous, but so that's when I go in for that. And then the big thing though is like, what's the process of getting a computer to do these things? And this is the one where I think like junior engineers would get stuck because they don't actually know how computers work. Like if you're a computer science student, you don't actually know how a computer works. So you don't know how computers upload files, which isn't to say that you can't learn. You totally can, and you will learn by the end of your degree, I think. But that's like the question here, which is like, how can you upload photos? How does a computer upload photos? And I like literally draw that out. And so if you're watching this and you don't know how a computer uploads photos, right? So you'll have some user, let's put them here. And then let's say that like the user they have a photo, they want to upload it. So, you know, obviously they click a button or whatever on the page and then they say that they want to upload it. They put in like the file or whatever URL, right? So like, you know, they have it on their computer. So maybe they have it on their downloads folder, my vacation, you know, in Greece or whatever, who knows, JPEG or whatever. So they point it to the computer and then this gets sent over an HTTP link generally, right? So we send it over the internet. They connect to the internet, like, you know, it's all wired in or whatever. Again, we don't need to go that deep into like the internet, but from there it hits a server. The server is going to have some code in it. It's going to be like receiving things, right? So we call this an API route. The server is going to be accepting information from this API route, listening, we say. It is listening. Once it catches the response, it will create a data store to store the file, you know, some kind of file storage. And like realistically, it actually just stores it in itself. Like a computer has its own storage, so we can just take the thing here and it can actually just, you know, store it. Problem though is that that's not scalable, so it wouldn't work in a system design interview, but like you could just totally draw that out and have this disconnected and just have it, you know, store the file, which I think is good. I think it's fine. And like, you know, we can call this a server. It's really just a computer. But like once you have this done, then it's just like, then my approach is like answer questions. And actually it's answer questions and then it's actually double check and then triple check that I actually did all what was asked, right? And so this is where we double check and triple check. So I go up here and I'm like, okay, I have users can upload photos. They just put it here. We put it onto the file storage. Okay, fine. This is a terrible design because we want scalability, which is implied within design Instagram because Instagram has billions of users. I think. We do want scale, so we need billions. And so you can't put billions of people on one server. So then you'd have to, we have to change it up. We got to modify it. So then that's when I would catch it. I would say, oh yeah, I was wrong. We want scalability. I wrote that down. And then we also want them to view photos. So then the act of viewing a photo is that, like, let's say we have someone who also wants to view. And actually, let me go here. And actually, let me see if you guys have any questions here too. So I would go back and I would look and I would say, okay, well, we haven't done how can a user view photos? And so we go here. We'll say, okay, let's say this is when the user wants to view. They would pass it through. So this is like a view link, right? So we have API routes here. We pass into the view. We go through, we pull the file, like they ask for some kind of file, and then we put it through here, right? So like, again, if we're going to go drill down, like go super, what is a view? Well, they're probably going to pass in like the view. I think it's a question mark equals, right? Or is it a question mark, file name equals, the name or whatever. Or, it could even be like my vacation in Greece.jpg or whatever. It doesn't matter. But like, this is going to be like what it passes in. They're going to pass in the file name, and then we're just going to retrieve it and give it back to them. Now, this isn't truly how Instagram works. So this design is actually really bad because we didn't answer the question, which is, it's not really that they want to view photos. It's that they want to view a feed. Now that said, I wrote down view photos here, so you guys are going to sit with me. But the point that I'm trying to illustrate is not how you design Instagram. I want to show you, like, this is what I'm doing, is that, like, I think fundamentally system design is just like, how do computers work? And it's like, what are the user interactions? How can I, non-functional requirements would be like restrictions, security, stuff like that, whatever, availability, consistency. And then you'll be doing that. And like, but the actual kind of design of this that I think looks like is that if for anyone curious, is that it's like something like we have a data store. We actually have a microservice here. So we need a homepage service, I think. And then we have a upload service. So there's many ways you can do things, but upload service. And then these are going to have like their own things. Upload service is going to use like a blob storage, right? So something like AWS S3. It's going to take the file name, read it, and then store it into this bundle. Then it's going to send it back to the user saying like, hey, we did it successfully. And the homepage users, like, there's going to be like, there's just so much stuff that's involved with this, but there's also like a friends, kind of table, because you need to know who's connected with who, like who should you distribute it to. So then you need to go through the homepage, needs to get all of their friends, and then from all of their friends, it needs to go through and get all of their posts. So then we're also gonna have like a post table. Then we have a post table, gonna go through, retrieve the posts, and then send it back to them. But this problem gets much more complicated than the 3-minute design I just did. But again, the big thing is, I think with system design, it's just like, how do computers work? You need to understand APIs. You need to understand, like, there are like some niche things, which is like, how can users upload photos? So then you need to know all of the ways that you can upload a photo. And then that's going to involve, like, maybe you go into ChatGPT and you say, like, what are all the ways that I can upload a photo for my system design? Like what are all of the ways that I can upload photos for my system design or something? Or even for my computer, it would probably even tell you. Okay, this is really bad, actually. This is really bad. I meant in system design interview. I don't know what you would call it if it's not system design. Maybe a computer server. Okay, whatever. I guess I was wrong on this one. This prompt is wrong. It's not actually that I'm wrong, but what are all the ways that to a server or servers in a system design interview? Why do I call it that? Yeah, the actual mechanism. What is the actual mechanism, I guess, is a better one. So you can directly upload it to the server. You can do a dedicated file storage like AWS S3. This is what I mentioned. Proxied, asynchronous with message queues. You can use a CDN database. Whatever. So I think we're kind of done with this one. I mean, I think this one was a little bit messy, and I would definitely want to like redo this for sure. And like, if I were going to redo this, like, it would just look something like this. It would be like, what are the user interactions? And then, like, do you even know like the mechanisms of how a computer works? Do you know like API routes? Do you know database design? Do you know, scaling, which is really big? Do you know cap theorem and like how to, kind of deal with that? And then like, file storage, and then like there's algorithms, like literally algorithms for computers. And it's like essentially like just a big test on that. And then like, can you listen and like, read through and all of that. That's what I feel like system design is. And so anyways, this is kind of like my thoughts on it. Like, I kind of wish that I understood that like even networking too, like, is kind of a part of it a little bit, how the internet works. But I kind of wish I understood this, because then it makes everything else make sense, I think, if I were going back on it. And maybe I need to condense this down again. We do another iteration of it to make this even simpler, but I don't know. This is, it's kind of how I vision it right now. And it's just like a test of like this stuff. And like this thing of like how a computer works is just so complicated, because there are so many moving parts to a computer.